Okay, welcome everyone. As we welcome in Dr. Guy, Saba, A.B. Spry, Irving Fishbaum, Menachem Umansky, Avi Ament, Baruch Ian, Stephen Holtzman, Eddie Chazan, Aaron Swade, Marshall Castle, Shimon Klein, Mel Zachter, Nachman Chapler, Shalom Fogel, Jack Silverman, Moshe Lehman, Yitzi Muller, Abe Arbach, Larry Tuchinski, David Helfgott on Kolaloshin, and we are dedicated by Shimon Klein, Lili Nishmas, Asher Anshelman, Yehuda, Gitta Bashem Pinchas, we're Irving Fishbaum for his continued gesund easy surgery. That's Issa Ben Razel, by A.B. Spry for all our brave Chayalim, and especially Issa Zeb Ben Yota. We'll learn from my Shver Avigdor Aye Ben Rivka, who seemed to have a very good scan today, B'li Ayin Hara. It should sustain itself, and for Hayalad Ben Chava and Meir Ben Chayesara. Also, Rabbi Isai, our Chaver Hadaf, Mo Kushner, called me today. He had to go to the hospital, so we have in mind Moshe Yitzchak Halevi Ben Nechama. He should have a refuah shalema b'seich Shar Cheli Yisrael. We are holding the top line of Daf Bava Kama Aleph, the top line of Daf Bava Kama Aleph, as we welcome in Dr. Block. And so far there's nobody in shul tonight. It's really, I hear somebody, I think, coming in. We want to, no, it's not zoom.com, it's Zoom Daf, D-A-F, zoomdaf.com, zoomdaf.com. We start the very top of Daf Bava Kama Aleph, Hatzara Shava Shaban. So the Mishnah says that we have Bar, we have Aish, we have Shar, we have Adam, and the common denominator is, so from the fact that the Mishnah says the common denominator is, it seems to be that we're coming to include other stuff. So La'asiyeh Mai, what's it coming to include? And the Gemara is going to give us many different explanations of what it's coming to include as we welcome in Dr. Block and Shelley Zeitlin. Ruvain Pollack arriving under the wire over here. Amar Abaya La'asiyeh Avnoi Sakinoi Umasoi. It's to include one's rock, one's knife, one's backpack. Shenichon Baroish Gagai, that he put on the top of the roof. V'nafla Baruch B'tzuyet, and it fell in a regular wind, an expected wind. Ve'ezikai, and it did damage. So the Gemara says, well, from the fact that you have to learn it out from an argument, then that means that it's not actually one of those items listed in the Mishnah. So the Gemara says, hey, Chidami, what's the circumstances? If it was carried in an expected wind and hit somebody while it was being blown down, then that's the same thing as a fire. The wind carries the fire and it's your money, and you're responsible. It's thrown off the roof by the wind. It's your property, and you're supposed to watch it. It must be after it landed. Well, after it landed, if you renounced ownership, Bein l'Rav, Bein l'Shmuel, both according to Rav and Shmuel, Hainabar, and that's your backpack, your rock is lying in the street, and you renounced ownership, so that's an obstacle in the Rishus HaRabban. When it is there, it's from the beginning a menace. It's initially a menace. Ella you didn't renounce it. So the Gemara says, well, L'Shmuel, according to Shmuel, even if you don't renounce it, it's considered a bar. That even if you don't renounce it, it's learned out from bar. Hainu bar. Says the Gemara, no, it's different. Loilam daf garinu. It's talking about where you put on the ledge of your rooftop a backpack, a knife, a boulder, and it blew off and it landed and you renounced ownership. But v'loi damu lebar. It's not exactly comparable to bar. Why? Because malabar shekain ein koyach achar mu'uriv bay. In the case of bar, there is no other force mixed in. You dug the bar. There's no other force mixed in. Taima bahani, that you have a synthesis of an obstacle, but since it was created by the wind that took it to the ground, shekoyach achar mu'uriv behem. Right, so it's not exactly like bar, because bar doesn't have a synthesis of a different force. So the Gemara says, Eish teichiach. Eish will prove that even where there's a koyach acher, you're chayiv. But mala eish shekein darka leilechu lahazik. But this is not like Eish, because Eish is a mobile threat. While this, that's on the ground now stationary, is not a mobile threat. Well, bar teichiach. Bar Yochayiv, even though it's not a mobile threat. So therefore, we take a element from Eish, because Eish does have the wind mixed in, and an element from Bar that it's not a moving menace. Hatzara Shavashibhan, the Gemara says, Bar Techim, Chazaratin, we go back and forth, and therefore we say that the common denominator is that it's mamoincha, it's your money, and shmiras and alecha, and your chayiv. So that's what we learn out from the tzad hashava. In other words, we learn out from a synthesis of bar and eish. So that's the first answer in the Gemara, what a tzad hashava comes to include. And we want to welcome in Rabbi Kranz, arriving, Pesach Siegelman, and Avram Schenkman arriving here. Better late than never. Harrison Kletzel has just joined us. Eli Khan, Gedalia Engel is coming in. Reb Krause is coming in. Rav Amar. Rava says when the Mishnah says Hatzad Hashava Shaban, it's Lasuye Bora Misgalgal Baragle Odom Ubragle Behema. It's talking about where you left a soda bottle on the floor. And then it's moved from its place and rolled by people pushing it or animals pushing it, and then somebody tripped and hurt himself. So the Gemara says, well, heichidami idaf karinu, if you renounce your ownership, bein l'rab, bein l'shmuel, hainu bar. Ma'ishna bar shekein tchilas asiyas l'nezik. It's initially a menace, u'shmiras alecha, and you have to watch it. When you put the soda down in the public domain, it was a menace from the get-go. Even if you didn't renounce it, says the Gemara, no. You renounced the soda bottle, but it's not exactly like bar. Because malabar shekain maisav garmulai. Your activity is what caused the damage, because you dug the pit and then somebody fell into it. Over here, it's not true, because somebody else pushed it to where it did the damage. Because you left it on 46th Street and somebody kicked and it rolled until 48th Street and it did damage on 48th Street. Says the Gemara, well, Shar will disprove, because it's not your Maisa that caused it, it's the Shar that went and damaged, it's the Shar that went and gored. Yeah, but Mal Shar Shekain Darka Leilachulahazik. But a Shar is a mobile force. This isn't a mobile force. It got kicked by something else, but it's not a mobile force. So the Gemara says, but bar teichich, it doesn't have to be mobile, because you see you're chayiv for a pit, even though it's not mobile. So therefore, you need to take an element from shar and an element from bar to tell you the chayiv. Chazar Adin goes back and forth that bar has the element of that it's not mobile, and shar has the element that your action didn't cause it, and you see that you're chayiv. Each one doesn't have the deficiency of the other. That it's mamoincha, that it's your money, your shmiras and alecha, and that you have to guard it, and therefore you're chayiv. Rav Ada bar Ava says a third pshat in what Hatzad HaShavah Sheben in the Mishnah is coming to include. To include that which we learned in the Brisa, Kol Elu She'amru. All the situations, and now, Kol Elu She'amru, all the situations that we learned in, why isn't it letting him in? Kol Elu She'amru, all the situations where we say that Poiskin Bevoisehen, you can open up your pipes to let out your waste. And Rabbi said we have a very special welcome. We have a new guest here on our Zoom family, Jay Siegel. It's amazing to welcome you in to our Zoom family. A royal welcome. And Jack Silverman is pretty new to our Zoom as well. He davens by us here in Fairways, but it's good to have you on Zoom. So it's good to have 30 Zoomers here this evening as Marshall starts to get excited. So Kol Elu She'amru, Poiskin Bevoiseyim, that you can open your pipes and let your waste waters into the Rishus Harabim, the Gorfin Ma'aroiseyin, and you could shovel out your caves of the wastes. You be a Moisa Chama. In the summer you can't do it, because in the summer the streets are clean. Be a Moisa Chama ein lem rishus. Be a Moisa Geshamim in the winter, the rainy season, where the streets are muddy anyway and all trekked up anyway. Yesh lem rishus. But even though you have rishus, if it causes damage, you're responsible to pay for the damage. Afal pisha b'shus, you have permission in the winter. Imeziku, if it does damage, chayavim l'sham. So in other words, you could let it out at your own risk. So the Gemara says, hey chidami, what's the situation that it's a chiddush that you're chayiv? If I open it up, and when I open the pipe, it goes right into Shelley. So then, koichayu, that's my force. That's adam amazik. Ela basadanayich. It means after it rested in the Rishus Harabim, somebody comes and slips on it, or somebody comes and gets dirty. Hechidami. Idaf gerinu. If I declared it after bein l'ra, bein l'shmul, hainu bar. And by the way, I keep on saying somebody hurts. It's an animal that hurts itself, right? Because b'pashtus for your clothing, you're not chayiv, because it says bar v'loy kalim, and for a human, you're not chayiv, because it says bar v'loy adam, shar v'loy adam. But your animal damage is on it. Now, Maishna bar d'tchilas asiyasal l'nesek. It's originally a menace. It's your money, and you're responsible to guard it. It's initially a menace. You didn't renounce it. According to Shmuel, we learned it out from bar. Hainu bar. Says the Gemara, because it's not like a bar. Because a bar you don't have permission to dig in the Rishus Harabim. This you have permission. He said you're allowed to, in the winter, you're allowed to open up your pipes. So v'lo dami lebar, because ma lebar shekain loy b'rishus, you don't have permission to do it. Taima bahani de b'rishus, here you have permission to do it. So the Gemara says, well, shar yochiach. Your animal is allowed to walk in the Rishus Harabim, and yet you're chayiv. Malishar shekain darka leileichu lahazik. But the shar is different because it's a moving menace. So the Gemara says here it's not a moving menace, it's now stationary. The waist is on the ground. Says the Gemara, bar teichiach. Well, bar will disprove that because you're chayiv for a bar even though it's not mobile. Because radin leiroi zekaroi zeh. Right, it doesn't have the deficiency. Shar doesn't have the deficiency that it's not with rishus, and bar doesn't have the deficiency that it's mobile. Right, so therefore we learn it out from the two of them. Ravina Amar, yeah.
What good is being able to have rishus to put it in the Rishus Harabim? If you're going to be chayav if someone slips on it.
You take a risk.
What?
You take a risk. A lot of times, people don't get hurt. They give you permission, but they say if somebody gets damaged, you're responsible. Do it at your own risk. It's a lot cheaper than building chambers for your feces. Ravina says, and this is a fourth pshat in the Tzad HaShavah Shebem, as we're 2 lines from the top of Daf Vav Amud Beis. It's good to get a little bit of a move on it because tonight is a busy night. We have a Chumash here following the Daf. We do not have to do the Mishneh Yomis. I did the Mishneh Yomis already. It's already on YouTube and on it was already uploaded to Kol Lashon. I don't know if it's processed yet, but I already uploaded it. Ravina says, La Suye Hodisnan, to include that which we learned in the Mishnah, HaKoisel va'ilon shenaflu l'Rishus Harabim, a wall and a tree that fell into the Rishus Harabim, v'zikai, and it did damage, poter milashalim. You're exempt from paying. Now, this is talking about a healthy wall and a healthy tree, which shouldn't have fell. That's an oinus. And the person hurt himself before it was possible for you to move it. It fell in the middle of the night, and it was before. That's considered an oinus. But if they gave him time to cut down the tree, and to demolish the wall, and it fell within the time. In other words, let's say they gave him 30 days, and it fell after 10 days. So he wasn't liable. He didn't do anything wrong. If it's after the allowed time, chay. Now here the Gemara assumes that it's talking about that you didn't remove it after the allotted time, it fell, and an animal hurt himself on it. So the Gemara says, hey chidami, ida afkara, if he renounced his ownership, so then that's bar. Bein l'rab, bein l'shmol, hainu bar. Ma'ishna bar dehezekei motzi. Its damage is common because people fall into virus. Ushmirasan alecha. Haninami ezekin motzi. This is a public menace. Ushmirasan alecha. Eida loyafkarin. If you didn't renounce it, l'shmul damer kulam mebar lamanu hainu bar. It's also bar. Says you're right. Loylam dafkarinu. However, v'loy dami labar. Why? Because malabar shekain tchilas asiyas and lenezek. It's very initiation. It's a menace. As soon as you dig the bar, it's a menace. Tomer bahani. The wall, initially it wasn't a menace. You built the wall, it served the purpose. It wasn't a menace. So shar yachich, the shar will disprove you. The shar is not initially a menace. The shar was small, it was a baby, it wasn't initially a menace. But Malashosha came darker leilechulazik, it's mobile, while this wall or this tree in the street is not mobile. Bartechiach, the Chazer Adin, the bar will disprove you. You chayiv for bar even though it's not mobile, and you go back and forth. You'll say, but a bar is tchilas asiyasel nenezek sharteichiach hatzara shavish that it's your money and you're responsible for it. This also you're responsible for.
Can I ask something on this? Why do we say why is this any different than Avnu Sekin Maso? We didn't say it's chilas on
Avnu Sekin Maso. We had another element. That it was Koyach Achamurabba.
But I'm saying that it could have used this as well. Because this is no different. Legabi, the halachas of bar, it's not original. If I have a knapsack, it's not chilas lenezek. Whereas if we're saying the wall,
I'm not so sure about that because we would consider a banana peel chilas asiyasel lenezek.
yes, but not a knapsack. No.
A knapsack that you put on the ledge of your roof as well.
Right, and it fell.
No. But when you put it on the ledge of the roof, it was already tchilas asiyasel lenezek.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we said at some point, either Rav Amrakolim Misharlim on the kind of shul.
Right.
I know the Gemara doesn't say
Right.
that.
But it would be the same argument. So then it's sure. And that doesn't have a follow-up, so that's why it doesn't bring it. Now, kishehizik chav hamazik, when it does damage, chav hamazik. Now, this is a grammatical question. Why does it say chav? It should say chayiv hamazik. Says the Gemara, chav hamazik, chayiv hamazik mebayilei. Well, all over Shas we say chayiv and potter. Why are we saying chav? Amr Reb Yehuda Amar Rav, Hay Toni Yerushalmi. Oh, telling us a very big kiddush that although the Mishnayos was made by Rebbe sometimes took a formula that was already said from before, and he put it in and preserved it. And the Yerushalmi style, as anybody remembers from Yerushalmi Shkolim, the Yerushalmi style is to say truncated, clipped words. In other words, like Rabbi Boone is really Rabbi Avon, and it clips the aleph. A lot of times in the Yerushalmi, it clips part of the word, right? Like Marshall. Is Marshall here?
It's cooking. What did I do this time?
Are you clipping the onions?
Am I what?
Are you clipping the onions?
No, I'm stir frying them.
Okay. So I Tani Yerushalmihu. This time is Yerushalmi, the Tani Lishna Klila. It's a truncated language. It's a shortened language. So instead of saying chayiv, it says chav. L'shalem tashlumei nezik. Okay, so now we're going to get to the subject of meitav. And remember, we said that in the event, you see we're missing Mark tonight. We're markless. Okay, let's take Stephen. If Stephen damages Baruch, right? So Stephen has to pay for meitav, from the best. Who's best? Stephen's best or Baruch's best? So let's see the Gemara inside. Tan Rabbanan meitav sadeh meitav karmi yishalim. From the best of the field and the best of the vineyard, he has to pay. Meitav sadeh shel nizik, the best property of the victim. Or meitav karmi shel nizik, and the best property of the best vineyard of the victim. That's Baruch. Div Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva says, the pasuk only comes to tell you to collect from damages from the best of Stevens B'kal v'chaymer lehektish, and that's surely if Stephen damages hektish. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Rabbi Shmuel, Ochel Shmeina Mishalim Shmeina, if Stephen's ox eats a fat furrow of baruchs, he has to replenish a fat furrow. Ochel Kusha, if he eats an emaciated furrow, still Mishalim Shmeina, he still has to pay from baruch's best. That doesn't make sense. It's talking about where Stephen's ox came into Baruch's farm, and he ate from one of the furrows. We don't know if he ate from a fat furrow or from an emaciated furrow. The Mishalim Shmein, he has to pay from a fat furrow. He has to pay a fat furrow. So the Gemara says, I don't know. If I was Stephen, I'd be hopping up and down like a madman. If we would know that his shar consumed an emaciated furrow, he only has to compensate him for an emaciated one. If you don't know which one, since when? That's not the way it works. If Baruch wants to get compensation, if he's a moitzi mammon from Stephen, he has to prove it. That's a very big aside in this Masechta. You know what we're talking about. Baruch's best land is equivalent to Stephen's worst land. Obapligi. Rabbi Shmuel Sava ben Nizik Shaimin. Rabbi Shmuel holds, look, Stephen only has to match the best land of Baruch. And therefore he could give from his inferior land, which equals the best land of Baruch. Rabbi Kiva Sava ben Mazik Shaimin. No. Stephen has to give from his best land. So my time at Rabbi Shmuel, why does Rabbi Shmuel say it goes after the best land of the victim? Well, Nemer Sodalamata, it says B'meitav Sodeyu, V'nemer Sodalamala, and it says above Ubir B'stei Acher, that the animal goes into Baruch's field. Mastei Hamalamala. It's talking about the Nizik, it's going into Baruch's field. Stay Hamalamata, B'meitav Sodeyu, the Nizik. You only have to pay what Baruch's best field is. Rabbi Kiva says, look at the pshat of the pasuk. Meitav Sodeyu, Meitav Karmo Yeshalim. From the best of Stephen's field and the best of Stephen's vineyard, he has to pay. It has to be the best of Stephen's. Eich the Kameshalim. Rabbi Shmuel says, well, we take a little bit of both. Rabbi Shmuel, Ahani Gzei Rishava. The Gzei Rishava of Sada helps. Ahani Gzei Rishava. Vahani Kra. And the pasuk also helps. Well, how does that work? So says the Gemara, Ahani Gzei Rishava, that we learn out, it says, Meitav Sadeu, and it says, Bir B'stei Acher, Kidika Amina. That Stephen only has to pay from the best of Baruch's property. Ahani Kra, which implies that Stephen has to give his best, Kigain de Islay Lamazik Idias Vizibarius. Stephen has really good quality and inferior quality. The Idias, the Islay Lamazik Idias Vizibarius. The Idias Lanizik. Baruch has pretty good quality land. Viziburis Damazik, the inferior property of Stephen, Loishavya K'idis Denizik, is not as good as Baruch's superior land. Now it happens to be that Stephen's superior land is much better than Baruch's. Too bad. The Meshamlei Memetiv Didei. Stephen has to pay from his best land. The loimatzi amalei ta'at gavi miziburis. He can't tell Baruch, take from my inferior land, because his inferior land is not as good as Baruch's superior land. So therefore he has to give Baruch his superior land, even though it's much better. And that's where the pasuk meitav sadeu meitav kami yishalim comes in. Elagavi meitav. Rabbi Kiva imaloi ba kosav el ligvais in the zikin minedis that we collect from Stephen from his best property. The kal v'chaymer lehekdesh, and for sure if he damages hekdesh. So now that's a very difficult pasuk. My kal v'chaymer, and that's a very difficult stanza. My kal v'chaymer lehekdesh. What do you mean? And for sure for hekdesh. Ilema de nagach tura de dun, letura de hekdesh. If it's talking about that Stephen's shar gored a shar of hekdesh, hold everything. If Stephen's shar gored a shar of hekdesh, Stephen is potter. That's a special drasha, because it says ki yigach shar ish es sharei eyu amarachman. Only if you guard the shar of your friend. V'lo shar shel hekdesh. So there's no. Forget about paying for meitav. Stephen wouldn't be chayiv at all. Ella says the Gemara la'omer hari alai mana lebedek habayis. It's talking about where Shalom says, I dedicate a mana to temple maintenance. The din is that we collect from Shalom's idios. I don't know what's worth more, Fairways, Woodlake, Florida, I don't know, but whatever's worth more, we would collect from there. The Asi Gizba, the Gizba will come, the Shakil may idios, and he takes from his superior property. Okay, Rabbi say, we are going to conclude the shir here, and now we're going to do the Chumash shir, so don't go away. It's a really exciting Chumash shir. Before I do that, however, I want to tell you very important that, by the way, please sign up for Monday, for Mariv, Monday 7:45. Also, I just want to tell you that tomorrow sometime I will put it on the chat. But tomorrow sometime, for the first time in a very long time, I will do a chak. Also, there's a new development with the chak, and that is that the Mifal HaChak decided to allow me to accept sponsors for the chak. So if anybody wants to sponsor a chak, you'll let me know. You could text me, and I'll let you know when that's going to be. Mishnah Yomis we did already, so now we're going to do the Chumash shir.